All right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from Sales Pop, online sales magazine and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Jimi Gibson, who's on the other side of the country in beautiful beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. Nearly mixed you up with North Carolina there.
That's all
Beautiful
right.
Charleston, South Carolina. How you doing, Jimmy?
Good, John. How are you?
Yeah, and Jimmy's vice president of brand communication at the Thrive Agency. It's a 19, nearly 20-year-old digital marketing firm. Jimmy's an experienced digital marketer, author, and TEDx speaker, believes that a company's website should be a constantly evolving client growing machine. And that's what we're going to talk about today is transforming websites into ever evolving client growing machines. So, Jimmy, there's been so much development and so many new platforms and social media and all of this stuff that it seems sometimes like company websites are becoming a little bit of an afterthought.
Yeah, we see this often. People get tired of me saying that your website is the hub of all activity to drive leads or sales. And, when you look at these other social platforms, you don't own those platforms. They can change on an instant. And we've seen that happen over and over again. When you invest and get to know your website and understand the intricacies behind it, the back end, the front end, and what you're putting out there, it can really grow sales, impact your brand. And we always tell people you got to lean in on this and you got to spend some time getting to know your website better. So don't let the cobwebs grow. We're in a situation now that if your website hasn't been updated or attended to in the last 2 to 3 years, it's pretty old and it needs some TLC for sure.
Well, yes, I mean, particularly as all the capabilities and things that you can do today.
Oh yeah.
So what are some of the when you work with the when you do your work, what are some of the things or areas you look at in order to continue to keep your website like evolving and growing and engaging?
Yeah. So we have sort of a top 10 checklist. We actually, any new client that comes on board, we evaluate them on 215 different data points. One section of that 215 data points is about your website and how well it's communicating who you are, what you do, and where you want to go as a business. I think the first thing that we get into a conversation with a business owner about is um, like, what are you great at? What do you want to promote out there? You may have an e-commerce business that has a large catalog.
Mhm.
You may be a service company that has a lot of different services, but there's probably something that you're really good at and that you love doing. They may overlap, they may not overlap. And so we need to get our priorities straight as far as what are we trying to accomplish with that website. And once we have that, then we've got some pretty good information on where to go from here. There's 10 different things that we usually sort of turn people back to their own website and say, look, get with your team, spend about an hour going through these 10 things, and then come back and let's have a meaningful conversation about where you want to go. What are your business goals? We tend to work with companies who are in a growth mode and want to
Right.
improve, right? And so they're willing to invest a little bit. Yeah, and I'm happy to go through some of
Yeah,
those or all of
so
those
let's
10.
dive into some of them anyway. What would you say is the most important one?
I would say above the fold on your homepage, that's going to
Mhm.
be the first place people land, right? And so, what is the main banner telling a visitor? Is it all about you or is it all about them? It's got to be all about them. It's got
Mhm.
to address that visitor's need, their pain points. There should be some sort of subhead that gives that value proposition. And then there's got to be some sort of visual. People remember visuals, they connect with visuals more than they do with words. And so, what is the combination of those words and visuals?
Mhm.
And then that leads into what is the call to action above the fold. So,
Yeah. Just one question on that. One trend we often see, and just is it's like in a sector or whatever, where suddenly all the main companies, all their websites start looking exactly the same. They start, visually everything. Where one minute they're full of like real people, now they're figures, then they're abstract, then I mean, but people seem to follow what other people in the industry are doing as opposed to sort of going, is this the right direction for me?
Yeah, we see that a lot. We do a lot of web makeovers
Mhm.
for some of those types of businesses. I think what it comes down to is a lot of times when you don't know yourself and you don't know what your client truly wants, then you tend to lean in the direction of some of those trends.
Mhm.
We always want to be communicating an authentic message, and that could be different for every industry. Obviously, we ask about the competitors, we'll look at their websites. Um, but I think what really is converting these days is authenticity, transparency, being real. Obviously, we'll get into
Mhm.
trust signals and things like that, but um, people don't believe what you say about yourself. They believe what other people say about you. And if there's some ability to translate that above the fold homepage,
Right.
then we say go for it. Yeah, we don't have a lot of connection to an abstract image. It might look
Mhm.
cool, but
Yeah.
that's an expensive look cool real estate on the website.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So what's another of the 10?
Yeah. So obviously you want to evaluate your calls to action. When you have a button that says submit, submit is not a good word. If you're asking them to download a free guide, then say, yes, send it to me. Download free guide. Be specific. Use phrases like that. Let's get started now. If
Mm,
it's about a service company that is a home service, we work with a lot of home service companies. Um, Free quote, you can include that. Start my free quote now. Have someone visit me.
mm,
Yes. Schedule my first appointment. Those types of things. And then you also want to make sure your CTAs stand out. Are they a different color? What is the visual language that you're asking the person to adhere to? Let's face it.
mhm.
We've all been on websites. We all know how websites work. There is a
Yeah,
structure and there is a format, and don't fight it. Like just go with the way that works, and make sure that you're guiding the viewer, because a website
yeah,
is nonlinear, right? So we
yeah.
have to sort of force that linear travel through the site.
Yeah, no, I love that. But one of my favorite quotes from a movie is from Spinal Tap, where they say, there's a thin line between stupid and clever, and I always
Yes.
remind that sometimes you see people like even on their websites trying to be abstract and clever, and I that quote always comes back to me when I see that it's missed them. I go, yeah, thin line between clever and stupid.
Yeah, we're big fans of clear over clever, and we'll get into that when we talk about navigation on the site as well. I think
Yeah,
people try to
but
get creative and obtuse. Yeah.
yeah, but it's interesting what you say about something as simple as a call to action.
Yeah.
About avoiding using like submit or very generic things, but being very, very specific. What just connects better with people, does it, or reassures them, or what's the psychology behind that?
Yeah, well, I think you always need to think about what's in your site visitor's head as they go through the site.
Hmm.
And if you can put words, and a lot of times it's great to talk to your customers because they'll tell you the words to use.
Right.
But if you can use their words, then you're more likely to have that um, buyer journey connect with
Hmm.
them. And so they're viewing your site. They have a problem. It could be they need their air conditioner fixed. They need a suitcase for international travel, whatever the case may be. um, you need to understand what that story is and make sure that call to action is the next step in the process to invite them
Hmm.
into a deeper relationship with your brand.
Yeah, and
So they're like road signs. Yeah.
in an elegant way.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's another?
Unless you have, sort of a casual or snarky brand, then be creative with that, and then they'll get to know you with that personality.
And that's a I'm just touching on that for a moment. That's something that I see a lot of today is brands trying to maybe be a little bit more edgy or being a little bit more like clever, humorous, or being a little bit more and it jars with who they are, right? I mean, and it just doesn't work. And I feel like sometimes, like as we said earlier, people chase trends as opposed to being.
Right.
You mentioned earlier the authenticity. I mean, I want to know who you are. I don't care if you're the stodgiest, most old-fashioned company because maybe that's what I want because I know you're reliable.
Oh, absolutely. If I'm looking for an accounting firm, I don't want them joking around, right?
Yeah.
I want them to be solid, conservative, and
Mhm.
know their stuff. Yeah, I think again, it goes back to who's your audience. What is the product or service that you're selling? Is it appropriate for your target audience? Um, there are ways to A/B test messaging.
Mhm.
So part of your audience sees one message, part of it. We're firm believers in making sure data is the winner, not the hippo factor, the highest paid person's opinion.
Mhm.
And a lot of times a website is designed by committee with no thought to how important it is to make sure that that conversion is happening. If you look at an e-commerce site, your conversion in a good day is between 2 and 5%, trending more towards the 2%. So you
Mhm.
figure every 100 people that are coming to your site, only two are going to follow through with the conversion as to what you want them to do. So why wouldn't you want to make that as connected to that visitor as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's another of the 10?
Yeah. So you really have to look at visually what's going on with your site. What does the layout look like? What does the readability look like? You know, the days of big walls of text is over. People skim a site before they start to dig in. So,
Mhm.
what is your structure? And if you get into a technical aspect, what is the H1? What is the most important thing on that page? And then how does that hierarchy go down into subheads, bullet points, quotes, the use of color, all of those things. We're big fans of not trying to tell everything to everybody on one page. Each page should have one reader, one problem that's being addressed, one solution, and one call to action. It just keeps that conversation focused, and it causes you to think through like, okay, what am I actually putting on this page? Is it going
Mhm.
to be valuable? Is it going to confuse somebody? Because no matter how much you think that this person has been waiting all their life to visit your website, they are busy and they have things to do. Get to the point
Mhm.
and get them to what they need. We always say that the homepage's purpose is to get you off of the homepage and
Right.
onto a page closer to what they're looking for.
Yeah, and that is a challenge sometimes because we try to fit so much in, where
Yep.
and that kind of goes back to, as you said, like, focusing on what's most important, what is the most critical piece, because if everything is the most critical piece, then nothing is, right?
Oh, sure. Yep. Yeah, I had a design teacher many years ago grading our layouts, and he said, "Who's the hero of this page?" And so, if you don't know the hero of the page, is it the image? Is it the
Mm,
testimonial? Is it the headline? Who's the hero? Only one thing can be the hero.
yeah. So what's another of the 10, sorry?
Yeah, I think we're up to four.
Yeah, we're up to 4, excellent.
Yeah, identifying opportunities for social proof. Everybody
Mm.
wants to know that they're not the first one
Yeah, yeah.
to, engage with your service or buy your product. So obviously, testimonials, any kind of user-driven content is important. I would say video, if you can get user-driven content video. There was a study by Cisco that says in 2025, 82% of the traffic on the internet will be related to video. And so I think a lot of businesses are missing out related to video. And so social proof tells a
Mhm.
story related to video. Also, I would hate to think that a site does not have an SSL certificate, but if there are security warnings on your site, that is a killer
Yeah.
for anybody continuing to look at your site.
Mhm.
Making sure there are trust icons related to payment if you're accepting payment online, all those types of things. So, and if you
Yeah,
have
no,
any
and
industry awards, yeah,
yeah, no, I think those are really important because, like you said, I mean, I think the more you can build that trust and build and have, as you said, like, so you have trust markers from outside, like
right,
certificates and stuff. You have social proof from your users and customers, particularly video. I mean, yeah, I agree. It's great when you can get video testimonies, and I think that's becoming more and more. Also, people are getting a little bit more relaxed about doing those type of
right.
thing. And also, I mean, and oftentimes, like, the more authentic they are, the better. I mean, sometimes, like, somebody doing like a quick testimonial for you to their phone is more powerful than a slick produced one.
Oh, absolutely. Something we call it in the field.
Mhm.
And, those can be done. There's a number of applications where
Sure.
you can send as a follow up the ability for somebody to post a video and they can just do it right then and there.
Mhm.
So, yeah, totally agree.
Yes. Okay, so let's see, that was 4. Are we on to 5?
Yeah. So, uh, you touched on it earlier about the difference between being clever and cute and simplifying navigation. Even looking at the position of where the words are in the navigation. And so typically, besides the home page, the About Us page is the second most visited page on the website. But a lot of times people put that off to the far right. Especially in the Western world, we read left to right. So
Mhm.
people are going to start on the left and move to the right. And so just relocating items in the navigation and then don't get creative. We're all familiar with services, about us, contact, keep them concise. It just avoids overwhelming your audience and gets them closer to what they want to find.
Yeah, yeah, you don't get any rewards from coming up with a brand new way of saying "about us" or whatever, if it's going to make me delay for a second looking for the "about us" button.
Yeah, you said a good word, delay. Um, and there's also a frustration level.
Mhm.
If there's some sort of pause or frustration, people have other options unless they are really married to you as a brand. And so when we get into heat map and we look at what we call frustration clicks, and that
Mhm.
goes into navigation. So that can
Yep.
be top navigation, that could be interior navigation. And if something looks like a button, but they can't click it, then that's also a level of frustration where you've either got to reformat the layout or you've got to make it a button
Mhm.
because that's what somebody's expecting. Why are they expecting that? Because there are certain rules about websites and you're trying to violate those rules and it's not doing you any favors.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's really interesting, Jimmy, because I think this is where a lot of people fall down because they either don't have the tools, they don't work with folks like yourselves, but they don't understand things like, the heat maps as you were talking about. I mean, we've done extensive work here. We as a tool, we constantly
Sure.
look at it. When we first implemented it, it was stunning in many ways when you first see it and you're going, why did people keep clicking over here? And then you're going, and then you look at it again, you're thinking, yeah, no, I can see why they're trying to click here. And then rage clicking and all of that. And then you realize, oh my goodness, all I'm doing here is frustrating the heck out of people who just want some information. They want the information I have. I'm just making it really hard for them to get it.
Oh yeah, yeah. You've put a locked door in front of them, and I understand there is some level of knowledge required to assess this, but there are also some pretty affordable tools
Mhm.
that are well worth the investment because the
Yep.
ROI on it is huge. I mean, if you just calculate what your average order value or your service value is, and then you look at what that change in conversion rate would be, you'll be shocked,
Yeah.
especially if you have a moderate amount of traffic to your website.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Seeing the heat maps before and then comparing them to the heat maps afterwards when you've done all the changes, it's I mean, to start to see almost clean behavior and people following like well-trodden paths, if you like. I mean, it is
Yes.
quite amazing.
Yeah, I read an article about a guy who designed office parks, and he finished the office park, and the person paying for it came in and said, "Your job isn't done. You haven't finished the sidewalks yet." And he goes, "Oh, we're going to get to that, but we let the people figure out where the sidewalks are." And so, as people moved from building to building, he just looked at the grass and where the grass was worn down, and that's where they put the sidewalks in. And so, he
Oh,
wanted the path of least resistance for people to move from building to building instead of he trying to predetermine where those were.
wow, that's really smart.
Yeah.
Let's do one more before we finish up.
Sure. I would say the big one right now that people really ignore is site speed. And that has
Mm,
become, when you look at Core Web Vitals and Google devaluing sites that are slow to load, we can't even wait for the microwave to hit zero, right? We're pulling things
yeah.
out at 3 seconds or 5 seconds. Um, you're going to get penalized. And for every second that, you know, a 1 second delay is going to cost a 7% decline in your conversion rate. And so a lot of that is caused by images that are too large. And
Mhm.
so compressing those images and cleaning up your code. And again, you can go online. Google has tools where you can evaluate your site speed, not only on desktop, but on mobile. 60% of traffic is on mobile. So you have to make sure you're
Mhm.
speedy on mobile. And so those are some of those back end things that people ignore, and they're not visible, but they aggravate people. I mean, I've done it myself. I've bailed on sites because they just don't load quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no, and that's a really good point. And as you said, I mean, the tools are there, Google has tools or whatever, but it's
Yeah.
really important for you to continue to check the page speed and all of that on a regular basis, because as we know, our friends in these companies like Google like to change things up every so often,
Oh,
or they
yeah.
like to say, oh, this now is a ding and this is a plus, and you're like, okay, but if you're not tracking it, you would never know that.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, just one last comment as well on mobile. I think this is an area that still a lot of people are overlooking is the criticality of your mobile version of your site being optimized to the max.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, mobile as far as all different sizes of tablets. And, when you get into a web development situation, there's choices that have to be made. I mean, a lot of
Mhm.
the software and development, I won't say is automatic, but it kind of make decisions. If you don't make those decisions, and the way in which you stack things in order, depending on, vertical or portrait or landscape view, and then you may want to exclude things on mobile just because it's not efficient for that mobile experience. So yeah, that we see that a lot, and that's overlooked quite a bit. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, John.
Yeah. So listen, thanks, Jimmy. This has been fascinating. Thanks for the insights. All of Jimmy's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do tell us a little bit more about you and Thrive.
Yeah, so I've been with Thrive for about 4 years now. I started the strategy department. I'm a firm believer, if you don't know where you're going, you're probably going to waste a lot of money and get somewhere you don't want to be. So we lean in heavily on strategy. We're sort of a unicorn in the digital marketing space. We've been around over 19 years. And yeah, we don't specialize in any particular vertical, which we feel gives us the ability to bring our best and not do the cookie cutter approach that some folks have complained about with other engagements. We really believe in our culture. We discourage overtime. We believe if you are healthy and happy and have a great family and friend life outside of work, you're going to come with a creative brain and be rested. And so, yeah, those are things that we believe in. And um, happy to
Excellent.
be on the show, and
Yeah.
hopefully some of these tips can help somebody get better performance out of their website.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I'd encourage you to go check Jimmy and Thrive's work. So thanks again. Thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.